Once again, we find ourselves with a whole alligator. Now in the last video, we dry aged it, which honestly turned out pretty ridiculous, but today we have some different plans for it. We're not only gonna smoke the whole thing, but we're also gonna make some gator jerky.
And for the taste test, we're out here in the wilderness on a little nature hike to give these a shot.
Well, I haven't been hiking in a while, so should be a good time. Let's get started. And here we have our alligator. As you can see, again, that big head with those crazy looking teeth. We have these wild looking claws, and the skin itself is super leathery, almost like a pad. But coming back to the tail is where we have the real meat. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm actually gonna remove the meat off of one side of the tail. We're gonna use that for jerky. Then we're gonna smoke the whole thing for our smoked alligator. And as you can see, there's also these two really distinct shoulder blades sticking out. And I actually have this weird thing where I can stick mine out too. So there's sort of this natural seam along the backbone. I'm gonna work my knife through here and peel off this entire loin. Because we're working with a relatively small alligator, I did my best to be as careful as possible to remove all the meat from the bone. Just take a look at this fillet of alligator. Super interesting looking. You can see there's like these seams of fat kind of running throughout, but more than anything, this to me looks like a fillet of fish. At this point, I found that I could pretty much just peel away the loins from the fat. So the fat is where those fishy flavors come from that people associate with alligator. So we've removed most of it, and we're gonna slice this up into jerky. Jerky is best with lean cuts, which makes alligator a surprisingly great protein to use. And regardless of the meat you use, keep the slices nice and thin, around 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick. All right, so we have our army of alligator strips. Gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with the knife work on that. Let's make our jerky brine. I find that salt and sugar are the most important proportions when it comes to jerky, but you can really get creative with the ingredients. I kept this one fairly traditional with some sweet and smoky barbecue flavor. Oh yeah. So you'll notice that I didn't measure anything. I find that jerky marinades are actually quite forgiving. It should be a little saltier than your traditional marinade, and feel free to add whatever to balance it out. We're just gonna let this marinate for a few hours. And back to the smoked alligator. So this brine is gonna keep our alligator extremely juicy, and the most important ingredient is the salt. From there, I added a few more flavors like bay leaves, peppercorns, and citrus. I went with about 1 gallon of water per cup of salt and sugar, enough to fully cover the alligator, and a whole bunch of ice to keep the water cold. Now, ideally, you're gonna wanna let this brine overnight. We're gonna do it for about 3 to 4 hours. Okay, the jerky's been marinating for a few hours. It smells unbelievable. You really get that smoke flavor. Now we're gonna add it to the dehydrator. If you don't have a dehydrator, a smoker or oven also work well. Just keep the temp low, around 165 F. Okay, we're gonna let this dehydrate for about 5 hours. Let's check on that whole gator. See you soon. After spending time in the liquid brine, make sure to pat it as dry as possible. I used an oil binder coating the entire thing, then seasoned with a sweet heat barbecue rub. Added an apple for presentation, and the gator was finally ready for the smoker. I got the smoker fired up, treating this like any other smoked protein. Kept the temp around 250 F, and we're smoking over applewood, low and slow. Once the internal temp reached 160 F, I painted with a vinegar-based barbecue sauce. Let that tack up for another 15 minutes, and this is the result. That alligator is looking great, and our jerky is finally done. The jerky took about 6 hours to fully dehydrate and had great looking color. To me, there's nothing better than jerky that's fresh and hot. I sliced up the alligator, making sure to peel away the fat that tends to have a fishy flavor. And I was excited to see that besides the tail meat, there was actually a lot of great meat along the backbone. This is where the ribeye usually comes from, and the texture really reminded me of smoked chicken.
All right, it is finally time for the taste test. We're out here in the middle of nowhere on a hike. No better time to eat jerky. Let's give these a shot.
Max, we're literally in a Walmart parking lot.
Sophia, stop, you're ruining it. Okay, starting with the smoked gator. That's actually really good. Definitely get that smoke flavor. Again, it kind of reminds me of chicken, but more of the texture of like a fish. This is awesome. Easily my favorite hiking snack. Let's give it a shot. I gotta say, this is probably the best jerky I've ever made. It's a little bit sweet, you get a kick to it. It's also smoky. The texture is a little bit dry, but I actually kind of like that. The more you chew, the more that flavor comes out. This is incredible. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm gonna go finish my walk, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, smoky.